Hi folks, HR Funk here, with a video that I have been contemplating for quite some time now, not because of all the random attacks that have been taking place involving dog walkers recently. Rather, it's because the things that I talk about in this video I think can serve as an example for threat assessment in other circumstances. I'm going to use dog walking as the premise for this video, but again, a lot of these things will apply to other areas in your life. This was basically kicked into high gear because of an incident that happened yesterday while I was taking Private Chewy on his walk. And normally I take him for a walk almost every day. Normally it's in the afternoon sometime. And for those of you who might have noticed that Chewy is a private once again and no longer a PFC, that's because he was recently reduced in rank after an embarrassing incident involving my daughter's cat's litter box, which I'm not going to go into. In any case, Chewy's misbehavior aside, as I said, I typically take him for a walk every day in the mid-afternoon, sometimes later afternoon, and I have a route that, depending upon exactly which direction I take, is between 2 and 3 miles. And this walk goes by my neighbors' homes, I go by some farm fields, and I go around the perimeter of a local college campus, all of which eventually brings me back to my home. And when I consider what type of firearm I'm going to carry when I do this, there are a lot of things that come into play, which I'll talk about as this video progresses. Now, I need to mention here at the beginning of the video that the firearms that I carry and how I carry them vary depending upon the day of the week and the time of the year at which I'm going on my walk. For example, in the dead of winter, I'm going to be carrying a different firearm in a different manner when I'm trudging through the snow than in the middle of the summer. And there are some dynamics that are going to come into play, as I said, I'll mention as this video goes on. But if we consider a typical weekday in my normal late afternoon walk, the first thing that I have to consider is walking by my neighbors' homes. Now, I am not at all concerned with walking past my neighbors' homes and having some issue with my neighbors. Rather, it's the fact that particularly during the school year, when the kids are all at school, my neighbors at work, and their homes are empty, the random daylight burglary is not unknown in this area. Now, should I happen across a circumstance that I think involves a daylight burglary, I am not going to go charging in and try to capture a burglar on my own or anything else. No, 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 no. And I would please recommend that you do not do that either. Rather, if I see something that looks suspicious, I will dial 911 and wait for the cavalry to get there and try to be the best witness that I can be. However, should an actual random daylight burglar happen to see me in the area on my phone and take a dislike to that and decide that that burglar wants to take some action toward me to prevent me from being that good witness, then I need to have a means to keep that individual from bringing those plans to fruition. So that's the first consideration. Secondly, as I'm walking past the farm fields and the woods that my route takes me past, I need to worry not only about potentially ne'er-do-wells wandering out of the woods, which may or may not happen, but a greater possibility is the chance for some sort of a four-legged threat to come from those woods. This brings me to my story from yesterday that actually was the impetus for making this video today. Yesterday, I took Private Chewy on his walk. We left about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I took my usual route, walking by several of my neighbors' homes, and I was on the opposite side of our road from those homes. And on the side where I was, there was nothing but a farm field, and the corn has now been taken off that field, so there was nothing at all. We were just walking along the edge of the field. But as I passed by one of my neighbors' homes, which is now across the street from where I was, I saw a dog standing in the driveway that I have never seen before. I don't know if those neighbors got a new dog. I don't know if it's a dog that escaped from somewhere else and just happened to be roaming around on their property. I have no idea. This was a good-sized black dog. It looked like some sort of a lab mix. And it saw me and Private Chewy on the other side of the road and took an immediate dislike to both of us. The hackles went up, bristles on the back of its neck. It started growling. It came trotting down the driveway, came across the road to the side where I was on the field, and started to advance, growling, snarling, all that type of thing. And I'm thinking, oh no. So I yelled at it and took a step toward it, and it stopped. So now, of course, I've got Private Chewy, and he wants to go play with the new dog that just happened to be in the area. And I'm thinking this could go bad very, very quickly. So I'm trying to back up and drag him away. And every time I start to move, this dog again growls and comes closer. So I was doing this, yelling at it and advancing toward it and getting it to stop as I'm slowly trying to get Chewy away from this area. And this dog got within probably 10 or 12 feet from the two of us. And I will say at this point, I am not going to be attacked by a dog. I am not going to be injured. I'm not going to allow my dog to be attacked and injured by a dog that someone else either can't or is not controlling. So make of that what you will, but that is not going to happen. But here again, I've got one hand that's tied up with Chewy on his leash, and my other hand is free. It's my strong hand because I'm walking him with the leash in my weak hand. And should that threat have become an actual attack or an imminent attack, I would have been able to take measures to defend myself and Chewy because I still had my strong hand free and I had the firearm that I was carrying accessible to my free, strong hand. As I said, I was eventually able to back us both away from there, and the dog sort of stood there and watched us as I got farther and farther away, and eventually I was able to cross into another field and keep moving, although the whole time I was walking yesterday, my head was on a swivel and I was watching just in case that particular threat happened to reemerge. So points to consider from that story that I just related. First off, if you're walking a dog, one of your hands is going to be occupied. Now again, this could be a dynamic that occurs in other circumstances. Maybe you're carrying something, maybe you have a child or what have you, but one hand is not available should you need to produce a defensive firearm. So whatever you're carrying needs to be available to your strong hand, or at very least your hand that's free, and it needs to be able to be produced with only that hand. Also, it needs to be a firearm that you don't necessarily need to support with two hands if you need to fire. So this brings into focus, I guess, the carry method that you're using, and also it bears on the type of firearm that you're carrying. Anything that's going to require a lot of manipulation to bring into service is probably not going to be something that you're going to want to attempt with only one hand. Again, involving this area that I walk past where I'm going along the edge of a woods. And this goes back a couple of years ago. This is another true story. We had a different dog at that time that my wife had let out into the backyard of our home. And there were two feral dogs. And feral dogs are something that is not unheard of in the area where I live, that emerged from the woods, and they charged the dog that we had at that time. My wife was able to get our dog back inside the house before it could be attacked by those two feral dogs. But between feral dogs and coyotes and potentially sick animals of other sorts, whatever I'm carrying also has to be capable of stopping an animal. And if any of you are hunters, you know that sometimes when you shoot an animal, the animal doesn't know it's dead for a little while, so you might have to shoot it more than once to stop it from an attack. So that's a consideration as well. Now, fortunately, in the area where I live, we do not have any large dangerous animals. There are no bears, or at least they are very, very infrequent in this area. Every once in 5 years or so, there will be a story about someone who spotted a bear somewhere, but they are very, very, very uncommon in the area where I live. There are no mountain lions, there are no any other kind of lions, so we don't have to worry about anything like that, no rhinoceroses. But when I get done walking past the woods, I get to the perimeter of that local college campus that I talked about before. And this is something, and a lot of this goes back to my history as a law enforcement officer, as someone who trained other law enforcement officers in active threat response. During the school year, I am always concerned when I'm walking past that college campus that that might be the day that someone woke up hating life and they want to make the world aware of that by going and taking violent, deadly actions against unsuspecting and vulnerable college students. I know this is a remote concern. I think the odds of that happening are probably about the same as the odds of being struck by lightning. But the next time someone is struck by lightning or the next time someone attacks students on a college campus won't be the first time. For that reason, during the school year, I carry something that meets all the other criteria, going to be accessible, can use with only one hand, etc., etc., etc. But also something that I feel would be applicable in a situation where I might have to intervene, and the possibility is strong that I might be the only armed good guy at that moment in that area that could be able to intervene in an active threat situation. So should that occur, I want to have something with me that is going to be appropriate for that. What I would like to have is my short-barreled AR or something like that that is going to be absolutely appropriate, but to try to carry that past the college campus and have to worry about someone spotting me, deciding I'm the armed threat, and the next thing I know, I'm getting stopped by the SWAT team that I used to work with. And once they see me and know who it is, then it's probably going to be like, oh yeah, it's him. No, I would not want to cause any kind of alarm or anything like that. So I do stick with a handgun that is concealable, and I know that I'm making a compromise by doing that. In the event that there is an active threat and it's something that is just not appropriate for intervention with a handgun, and I hate saying that, I might have to make the tactical decision not to intervene, or at least to employ some sort of tactics that might take longer for me to intervene and be able to stop that threat, or at least distract that threat long enough for innocent people to get away. So I have something, as I said, during the school year. Now this is going to differ in the summertime, because in the summertime when school is out, chances of a threat taking place at that college campus are virtually nil. I don't think that I've ever heard of that happening. So in the summertime, and particularly let's say it's on a weekend in the summertime, everybody's home, the kids are home and all of that. Now I'm in a circumstance where I'm dressed lightly. I can probably take a light, something like a J-frame revolver or something along those lines. My biggest concern at that time is going to be the four-legged threat that might emerge from the woods or come out of the farm field or wherever. So that's why I said what I carry and how I carry it varies depending upon the day of the week, the time of the year, etc. The final circumstance involving walking Private Chewie takes place somewhere between midnight and 3 a.m. with annoying regularity, and that is when he has to go out at 0 dark 30. And it is largely because of that circumstance that I purchased a particular handgun that I'll tell you about momentarily. Now, I could take a long gun out at that time. I'm going to be only in my own yard, and I have been known to do that, but that requires a little bit more activity on my part at 0 dark 30 when I'm half awake. So normally I take this particular handgun, and I'll show you the manner in which I take it. So what do I carry and how do I carry it? In the summertime, as I mentioned a moment ago, when I'm not worried about the college campus, if it's a time when most of the neighbors are home, etc., usually I'm happy with a small J-frame revolver. And for the last year or so, it has been this Smith & Wesson Model 432 Ultimate Carry Titanium Edition. I really, really like this revolver. Typically, it's pocket carried. I have it loaded with some of the 32 Magnum ammunition that I showed in a video a while back that's loaded by Lost River Munitions. And with that ammunition, virtually any four-legged threat that might emerge is probably going to be something that I can deal with this particular handgun and with that ammunition. It makes it very easy to carry because it is so light and so comfortable carrying in a pocket. And my perceived threat level at that time is much lower than it is at other times. And I'll talk about some of the things that I carry when that threat level starts to go up some. If for whatever reason I'm not comfortable with the 32 H&R Magnum cartridge on a given day, probably the next revolver that I go to frequently is, again, a Smith & Wesson. This time it's my Model 19 Carry Comp. And a lot of times I'll have this loaded with a good 38 Special plus P ammunition. That's going to be sufficient for just about any sort of a four-legged creature in this area. It's going to be sufficient for most two-legged creatures in this area. Sometimes I might load it up with a 125 grain 357 Magnum also. But again, very easy to carry, very easy to work with only one hand. If necessary, I can cock the hammer and fire a shot single action, one-handed. And again, I carry it in a manner where I can access it using only one hand, usually on a strong side waistband holster with some sort of a cover garment. So this is revolver option number 2. Now let's move into the school year, where I'm concerned about that college campus and any mayhem that could take place there. The smallest firearm I'm probably going to be carrying during the school year when I'm walking the perimeter of that campus, at least during the week, is going to be my Masada 9S or Masada Slim. Recently, I installed the new grip module on here, and this is the Elite grip module. And also, I got 2 of the newer 17-round magazines for this pistol, so I've got plenty of capacity. It's still a small handgun. It's still easy to carry. It's still going to be easy to deploy with just one hand. And again, this would be the smallest handgun or the smallest semi-auto that I would be carrying during the course of the school year. Most times during the school year, I'm carrying something larger than my Masada Slim. Now keep in mind, this is during the school year, so it's cooler. I'm wearing heavier clothing, so it's easier to conceal a larger firearm. So I might be carrying something like my Tizosh 2011 DS that you see here. I might have any number of my standard capacity polyframe striker-fired handguns. I wouldn't mind, and it's not on the wall behind me anymore, carrying my X-Star EP9 or something along those lines. But again, that starts to get a little cumbersome to try to carry. And as I said, I know the chances of something taking place at that college campus are very, very remote. But I also know remote is not zero. And finally, for those times that Private Chewie wakes up in the middle of the night and wakes me up in the middle of the night and has to go out, I have this firearm, and as I said, I bought it partially just for this circumstance, and it lives in this Bulldog bandolier holster that I got from Optics Planet some time ago. I don't know if they still have these or not, but when I get up in the middle of the night and I'm wearing nothing but my sweats and a t-shirt or whatever, or in the middle of the winter I throw on a coat, it's very easy to throw this thing on over top of everything. And when I remove the firearm, which I do when I go out into my yard, again, keep in mind feral dogs, sick animals, potentially ne'er-do-wells wandering around, I have the light that is on here so I can light up the yard and see what may be out there. Also, this has the laser sight for that very same reason. This is my CZ P09 Nocturne. Ironically enough, I use it mostly during the nighttime. And because this has a double action first shot, I really feel a little bit more comfortable carrying this in the middle of the night when I'm half awake and I'm looking around the yard and trying to keep my eyes open and see what might be out there, because that double action first shot adds a measure of safety to this platform. Even so, I can operate it with one hand. I don't have any safeties to manipulate or anything else. And if need be, if there's time, if I do see something that needs to be shot, I could potentially even cock this to the full cock position and fire a single action shot, again, using the laser sight or using the optic that I have mounted or whatever. Once Private Chewie is done and we come back in, the P09C Nocturne goes back into the Bulldog bandolier holster. It goes back into the place where I store it. and it stays there until the next time that it has to go out with me in the middle of the night. And there you go. Those are my thoughts on considerations for threat assessment while walking your dog, and hopefully some of that applies to some other areas of your life. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this video. If you have any thoughts or questions, be sure to forward those to me. Remember, stop by my website, hrfunk.com, check out the news and information page, see all the latest things going on with me and the channel. And go by my products page, because a lot of the products that I've reviewed here on the channel have links on that page, and there's information beneath some of those links that'll save you some money if you decide to make a purchase. See you next time, folks. And until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.